Hello my friends, welcome back. Today I thought I would discuss with you my on and off relationship with Rosario+Vampire and give you, I guess, like an overall review of season 1 in terms of the manga. So let's just get started. If you don't know what Rosario+Vampire is, I cannot remember the author's name off the top of my head. I can tell you though because that would be good. It's by Howdee-haie. Probably butchered that, I do apologise. And it's a series or volume, basically it's this series from my knowledge consisting of 2 seasons in terms of like 2 parts to the manga. So the first season, I don't know how other to describe that, think of like seasons of a show, sort of like that. I think they still call it seasons. The first season, which is the one I'm talking about here today, consists of 10 volumes of manga, and it's basically about a young boy called Sune who finds himself going to a monster high school monster high, and he has to kind of make the fact that he is a human secret, because everybody in this school is basically trying to learn how to sort of infiltrate human society and fit in with them, but for some reason everybody also wants to kill humans. So there's that. It's been a while since I actually finished the series, so my overview may be a little bit clouded in terms of what I can and cannot remember. I do apologise, but I just thought I'd go through this video kind of giving you my little journey through reading this and if I will continue on or whatever. First off, let's start with my first predicament of the fact that I didn't know what it was called, because it's got Rosario and then it's got like that cross and then it's got vampire. So I had heard people call it Rosario+Vampire. I think that's what one of my friends called it. I've heard people say Rosario and Vampire. I've heard people say Rosario cross Vampire. So I just completely disregard the cross and just call it Rosario+Vampire, because to me that's simple enough. I feel like somewhat people will understand what I'm talking about because I haven't put an and or a to. I've just said Rosario+Vampire. I don't even know. I remember watching like 1 episode or 2 of the anime, and I can't even remember how they said it or if they even did say the title, but yeah, that was my number 1 confusion. And then it was the fact that I was sort of borrowing the books from a friend, and it wasn't of like a consistent thing. So I actually started reading this back when I was about 13, 14, when I was in secondary school, and I had a friend, she's still really big into like cosplay, manga, anime and that, but at that time she was almost like my gateway of recommendations for properly getting me into it, because I believe my brother was into like manga and stuff, but he wasn't like, well, he was more into anime to be fair, but it was like the generic Naruto and Pokemon and stuff like that, so he wasn't much for recommendations. And obviously, well, it might not be obvious to you, but he's 8 years older than me, so his tastes in terms of what perhaps I should and shouldn't be reading, I don't know, to be fair. I saw some strange stuff, opened me up to the world of hentai and all these things, but yeah, basically his tastes were different to mine. As a slightly younger person interested in different things, because we're different people. But anyway, she was sort of my entryway into this for the most part. I obviously sort of stumbled on it myself anyway, but she sort of opened me up to it a little bit more, and I started borrowing them from her. But she's one of those friends that loans everything to everyone. I don't know if she's the same now, and she always had someone borrowing a couple of volumes ahead of me, so when I needed that, someone else had already had it, so I had to wait. And it was one of those things where by the time I'd get the next volume I wouldn't have remembered. It was on and off for a number of years throughout my secondary school experience, so again, by the point I got the next volume I'd have to sort of start again because I couldn't really remember. During this period, it's probably important to say that I did again attempt to watch the anime. I feel like I watched a random few episodes with her, but in terms of watching it like cover to cover, beginning to end, I only watched like 1 or 2 like in order properly, so I didn't really get a feel for it that way. It just, in the end, I think I kept getting to probably like volume 5 or 6 and then had to keep starting over, and then by the end of like secondary school I just sort of stopped reading them. I was starting to fall out of manga and anime, and then I only really started getting more serious back into reading and trying to complete things that maybe I hadn't completed, or I don't know. I always think that I've read more manga than I actually have and watched more anime than I actually have, but I tried to make it a point to basically finish the series I was in the middle of in terms of manga, which just so happened to be Rosario+Vampire, and get that done, because there'd been so many times where I had to keep starting over. So I ended up like borrowing them on from the library. I used to read a lot of like scanlations, but I now know that that's probably not the best way to support creators and stuff, so I don't do that anymore. Maybe I sort of dip into it. It's been a while actually, but maybe I sort of dip into it when I desperately can't find the copy that I'm looking for. The library hasn't got it in, I can't request it in, I don't have any friends, and I don't want to buy it. I know that sounds so silly, and that's not an excuse at all. Always support your creators where you can, guys. But that's sort of how I was reading it over those sort of times, and I finally ended up completing season 1. Then this led me to think, okay, I finally got that out of the way. Do I continue on with season 2? So over the course, it's probably important to note again that I gave everything generally in that first series of the manga between a 3 and a 4, sort of my average rating for them. I think later on they started sliding more into the 3 stars out of 5, and then volume 7 I gave a 1 star. I really disliked that volume, so it made me think, generally I'm looking at this as more of a mediocre sort of storyline. Do I need to continue on with the second season? And I'm still kind of asking myself that now. I feel like the anime I will probably eventually try and watch, and it might just satisfy me enough to just watch the whole of the anime and not bother about continuing on with the manga, because from what I can remember, I was somewhat satisfied, I guess, with how that first season ended. I can't remember. I think I probably was somewhat interested in continuing on, but it's been a while, and so the pull has obviously not been strong enough to get me to go on the hunt for the next volumes anytime soon. So I mean, there's that factor. Also, a lot of the series I found after, like, actually pretty straight away, I noticed that it does follow like a episodic sort of feel. We have basically Skune gets into trouble with some sort of bully or enemy at this school. They find out he's a human. They want to try and make him pay. I can't remember the girl's name. Mocha runs in, saves the day. It's that sort of formula. Obviously things deviate here and there, things change, other characters get added, plot sort of expands a little bit, but for the most part I feel like it is a very episodic sort of framework based thing that is basically repeated throughout each volume with just a slight difference. And to be honest, if it's not bringing me like the fullest joy I can get, and I can predict what's happening, then do I really need to continue on with the next season of manga? I don't know, you tell me. As well as that, as I started, well actually in my latest sort of reread, start over, finish reading of this series in my older age, I've noticed how sexually explicit the high schoolers are. Obviously when I was reading this as a 13, 14, 15, even 16-year-old, it didn't really cross my mind because I was that age group. Do you know what I mean? I didn't think anything of it. I obviously knew they were more scantily clad, but I liked it, I guess. I didn't really feel like that was an issue. But reading it from someone in their 20s, even from like 19, maybe even 18 upwards, I was like, this is probably a little bit weird to be reading. The perspective is of a school, and they're showing like they're overly sexualized. They don't look like 15, 16-year-olds. Do you know what I mean? So even though I did finish it, that always was a little bit of a weirdness in me. And I know it's obviously like that fan appeal, it's appealing to, I guess, yeah, an older audience, I guess. But if you're basing, like, the storyline in itself is pretty innocent. If you're basing it on this kid going into a school and he finds himself surrounded by monsters and all that, I feel like that could target quite a younger audience. And the fact that they're all like dressed in like an overly sexually explicit way is probably a bit odd. But I feel like that is the case for a lot of manga. I don't know if that's just how it is in the manga anime world. I didn't get too invested in it growing up to think much of that, but just from a perspective of an older person reading that point of view now, it's like a bit odd. So then again, that in my mind makes me think, do I want to continue on if I'm going to be feeling these weird feels, as well as the fact that they're generally mediocre enjoyability? I don't know. So don't get me wrong, like, I did enjoy my time. It is short, even though it took me a long time to finally finish. It is only 10 volumes. I'm not sure how many volumes the next season has. I think it's maybe a similar length, and I do try to nowadays sort of consciously gravitate to the shorter volumes, because I don't know, I feel like I want to get to the point a bit quicker. Sometimes manga I find can stretch far too long than it needs to be, certain series, but it's just one of those things where I'm still tossing the coin, like, should I continue on? I kind of feel like in my mind it's uncompleted because I've not finished all the works that are physically out, if you know what I mean. But at the same time, it's like, why would I put my efforts into something that's not giving me 100% back? So yeah, I'm trying not to let this come across as a negative review or whatever. I just thought it was a funny experience of how I've been on and off with it, my confusing, overwhelming thoughts about the thing. And basically, do you think I should continue on? Because I don't really know. I feel like for sure I would like to check out the anime again and just kind of stick that on, but it's kind of, I've got sort of detached the point that, I don't know, I feel like I'm going to be looking at it from a more nostalgic point of view, because I was in and out of this series for such a long time. I do enjoy it, but I feel like I look at things far more critically now, in its overall productivity, I guess. And I'm just wondering, do I bother continuing, if you know what I mean? So yeah, I feel like I'm stuttering and I am over explaining way too much, so I'm going to leave that here. Guys, help me out. What do you think I should check out? Or even if you have any recommendations of things of that nature, because I do like sort of, I guess, yeah, I want to try and get away from high school-esque plots now, but things of that nature where they find themselves with like supernatural monster like scenarios, but maybe for like an older audience, similar sort of setting vibe in a way, but for an older reader, so that I don't feel weirded out by the fact that I'm not even oogling, that sounds weird, but watching these 15-year-olds running around and I'm like, they probably shouldn't be dressed like that. And also, I need more involvement, I need more connection to the characters. I don't know why I did that. I'm still thinking of boobs apparently. Oh my god, this is getting way out of context. Anyway, yeah, I need your help. Thank you. Bye.